Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. This webinar is part of our ongoing Learn at Lunch series that is made possible with a grant from the Farm Service Agency. For more information on today's topic, please visit the eFarm Management Training website. And as a reminder, you may enter questions in the chat box in the lower right corner, and Gant will answer your questions at the end of the webinar. Today's speaker is Gant Moore, the OSU Extension Beef Value Enhancement Specialist. Gant, I'll turn it over to you now.
Hey, thanks so much, Brent. So we're going to visit about the Oklahoma Quality Beef Network and the VAC 45 sales that we offer to producers really all across the state. Just a little background information that the OQBN, it's more than just VAC 45. It's really just increasing communication amongst producers, buyers of cattle, sellers of cattle. How can we improve management of those calves and be able to capitalize either whether that's at the feedlot or at our local livestock auction markets. So we'll kind of get into it just a little bit. If you have any questions, like Brent said, feel free to either I guess just raise your hand or type them in there. So the idea with OQBN, or one of the biggest messages that we receive, is just health of cattle. We know that one of the biggest problems in the beef industry is overall health. That's at the feedlot. Can cost our industry billions and billions of dollars. Okay, so what we try to get ranchers to do is a preconditioning program with their weaned calves. And so I look at this a little bit differently than some VAC 45 programs. I look at it as a way, hey, I want to be able to add value to my animals. I want to have options for my calf crop. To be able to do that, I'm going to precondition those calves for myself. And then we can look at different market scenarios and say, hey, all right, I'm going to keep them the minimum 45 days and sell them at that period of time. Or I may have other options and be able to put some weight on those particular animals and really add, which is the most powerful tool we have is value of gain, but be able to put those pounds on animals and really capitalize on that value of gain. So if we think about on the ranch some actual benefits of just a regular preconditioning program, well, what we're actually going to do at that period of time is reduce stress on those calves. And if we can reduce stress, we're going to reduce shrink, increase health, and mainly the most valuable thing, again, we're going to increase gain on those animals. I already mentioned it. We're going to improve the immune system. The increased sale weight always adds value. Oftentimes we'll see a seasonal price increase. Keep in mind our traditional weaning date in Oklahoma is going to be in the fall. We're going to have a lot of those weaned calves or those ranch raised calves coming into the market in the fall, really October, November. And even a little bit earlier than that. But if we can usually get over that influx of calves, we may see a seasonal price increase. We don't always do that, but we do at particular times. We also see an increased market demands, meaning we open up another market because we're finding producers that want to purchase well-managed cattle. And then if producers do all these things, we'll talk more about it, but they have the option to market cattle at an OQBN verified sale throughout the state. Okay. Again, all we're doing is setting up the health of the calves on the ranch at the time of weaning, and really making those calves perform for both the buyer and the seller. Okay. So our VAC 45 requirements, we actually have three options to vaccinate those calves. They can be vaccinated at branding, which is about 2 months of age, and at weaning. We can pull those calves in about a month ahead of weaning and give them a round of vaccine, and then booster that vaccine a month later. But the majority of our producers will wean those calves off the mama cow, give them a round of vaccine at that time, and then booster that vaccine again in 21 to 28 days. All of our steers have to be castrated and healed, of course dehorned and healed, and with the VAC 45, that's what the 45 means, is they have to be weaned a minimum of 45 days. And one thing that's unique about the OQBN VAC 45 is that our county extension agents get out to the ranch and they actually witness or see those calves on the ranch. And we'll see them after they're weaned. We'll make sure they're in a pen and they can eat out of a bunk, that they're not bawling for mama or walking the fence line, whatever the case may be. And I get to see a lot of those calves and get out in the state and see those. And a lot of our county agents do as well. It's also a great way to build relationships across the county, and maybe meet some producers that you haven't met if you're a county agent, or myself, grow relationships across the state with producers. So these aren't technically requirements, but we do recommend a good deworming program and treat for external parasites and lice and such. It can be really valuable, can really increase weight gains on those animals, and is highly recommended. Of course, fresh water and high quality forage, a good mineral supplementation program. May need a coccidiostat, and this may be more if we're going to keep those calves in a confined environment, into a dry lot setting that's either really dusty or really muddy, and we might get some cocci and have to treat for that, which can be treated very easily in water or through the feed and something like decox. Also, a good feeding program, and we want to be able to teach those calves how to eat out of a bunk. Okay, and these things that we're doing, they're not just. Some producers think, oh, we're getting these calves primed up just when we go sell those calves. Whoever buys them, all the work's done. Well, that's not exactly the case. Whenever we wean these calves, and I've said it twice already, and I'll make the point a third time, but keeping those calves gaining is extremely important. We have to have them gaining. The value of gain is, and I haven't calculated it here in the last couple of weeks, but it's been 80 to 85 cents a hundred or per pound, excuse me. Extremely valuable to put that gain on them. The other thing that we can do with this bunk training is once those animals actually reach the livestock market, okay, we can get those calves in there a day or two ahead of time and actually get them on feed. And a lot of our producers actually find that they have 0% shrink or maybe a 0.5% shrink when their calves actually go through the sale ring versus a possible amount of shrink of 4 to 5 up to 7%, depending on the distance they traveled to that particular sale. Okay. So everybody always wants to know what exactly are the premiums that we receive for these cattle. This term premium, and I'm very guilty of using the term premium, is really no longer the correct terminology that buyers are actually using at livestock auctions. You can see this is actually the difference between an unmanaged calf, meaning we have no vaccination history, we have actually no history at all on that particular animal, versus a calf that is verified through a VAC 45 program or has some sort of health history behind them. And you can see over the years we average between $8 and $9 a hundredweight. More recently in 2014, when markets were at record highs. We wish we had those markets back now. We received almost a $20 hundredweight premium for those calves. We got some really nice attendance and enrollments from people that period of time. But to be perfectly honest with you, by not enrolling your cattle in a VAC 45 program and not preconditioning those cattle, those producers, even though they were getting $1,500 a head for those animals, were probably leaving $200 to $300 a head on the table by not preconditioning at that period of time. Okay, and so we see that the premiums in 2015 and 16 have remained very steady at 11.18 and 10.22. Again, that's a hundredweight. Okay, so those values have remained pretty high and pretty consistent. So what we're actually seeing, how I told you that terminology is wrong. What we're actually seeing at the livestock auction is these are now the baseline calves. If you're not preconditioning your cattle, if you're not weaning them for a 45-day period at a minimum, mind you, then you're actually receiving a discount. And so that's how that terminology has been inverted and flipped around, because cattle buyers are saying, hey, we want these calves to be able to perform well, and part of that is health. We also want to be able to get those calves home, and we want to be able to have them gaining for us from day one. All right, instead of having to get through that 2-week sweat and wait 2 or 3 weeks for those calves actually gain. We want those calves to gain right now. Okay, so that's kind of the switch in terminology, but that is the value of a preconditioning program. You know, this is a little bit more data, and you can find this on our website at oqbn.okstate.edu, and kind of breaks down, and really I show you this as you would expect, and like any cattle scenario, the heavier the calf, the actual price tends to go down. Okay, and that's still kind of the idea. You can see our heifers are actually a little bit higher than the steers. We have some sales in the state, Blackwell, for instance, that we have some just really high quality animals at those particular sales, and a lot of local producers in that area will purchase our heifers as replacements, or they will take those heifers, breed up, and sell them as bred heifers to their neighbors. So some really high quality animals is why you would see the difference in steers for heifers. But again, as the cattle get bigger, we typically see a decrease in price. Now that means the premium overall, because we're selling more pounds, is higher, but on a hundredweight basis, it's about the same, or it decreases. Excuse me. Just some quick stats of what we went through in 2016. We actually worked with 183 producers across the state of Oklahoma. A little over 11,000 head were enrolled in our program. Now, mind you, not all of those calves were sold at a livestock auction. A lot of those calves were sold via private treaty, or they may have verified them and decided, hey, there's some replacement heifers we want to keep, and so they kept on the ranch. But again, 11,000 head total, well over 10,000 head sold across the state. We average, 61 head per producer. All right, so a pretty decent average there. We work with anybody from 4 to 5 head. We'll verify, to one of our biggest ranches has 700 or 800 cows that we work with through that. Interesting to note, average days weaned is about 59 days. A lot of buyers indicate to us that they want those calves weaned 60 days. And this is both good for the buyer and the seller, because as a seller of those calves, that gives me about 2 more weeks to put pounds on those animals. Again, the most important thing we can do is get pounds on those animals, and they perform well for us. So those 2 weeks actually adds value to the seller of that particular set of calves. And the buyer, it gives them that much more time to have those calves straightened out and we know we're probably hopefully over any sickness, and we won't have to treat those animals if I buy those calves. All right. 65% of our producers use a modified live vaccine like Bovashield Gold 5, Pyramid 5, Titanium, something along those lines. 28% of our producers actually implant their calves, and they actually on average travel about 69 miles is as far as the average travel distance. Now, we get some cattle out of Texas coming up to El Reno, and some cattle down by Idabel and Durant that come up to El Reno and Woodward, and so those average miles traveled would be quite a bit further. Okay. Here, really quick, this is the actual vaccination protocols. 30% of our producers actually brand or vaccinate at branding and at weaning. Really, the best option is this option number 2 when we're going to vaccinate those calves pre-weaning and at weaning. Excuse me. And we have very limited producers that do that. Of course, it takes lots of labor, takes lots of time to go ahead and bring those calves in, work them, and then kick them back out with mama. But ideally, this would be the least stressful situation where we're going to pull those calves in, vaccinate them. They're off the dam for just a couple hours at most, and then we'll kick them back with the dam for another 30 days. And what that does, it actually allows that vaccine to work. We reduce the stress, and a stressed animal and a sick animal, we might as well be throwing that vaccine away. Again, and that's why we require 2 rounds of vaccine, because if this weaning period is very stressful on that calf, okay, it will give that calf 30 days to straighten out, to get back on feed, to get over any sickness or fever they may have, and then we revaccinate that animal at this post-weaning time to want to know that vaccine is really effective and really taking hold on that healthy animal. Okay. At each of our sales, the Ag Econ group comes and records data, and you can find these on our website on the website for each of our sales that we actually host. This actually happens to be our Woodward sale from last year, the first week of November. Okay, and I just want to point out how this works. The OQBN price range. This is what our OQBN calves actually brought. Okay, and these are non-VAC 45 certified cattle. So these may be some really nice set of calves from a very reputable producer we have lots of information on those calves. Okay, and oftentimes these VAC 45 non-certified, again, if they're high quality and a really good producer, will meet and get OQBN price average very, very closely. And in some instances, like on this 4.5 weight calf, actually beat our OQBN price, okay, which isn't a bad thing. It means that producer has built up a reputation, and really the other thing, has lots of cattle to sell, can put truckloads of calves together and have big lots to sell. Okay. So if you look, this is actually on the very end column here is a set of calves that we compare our cattle to. We don't really know any health history on this other category, and so this would be the base calf that we compare OQBN to. So that's where that premium is actually established or comes from. Okay, and I just want to make that clear. If you're interested, you can take a look at that. That's a one from Woodward. This just happens to be McAllister. I don't know why I put so many in here. This is OKC West in El Reno. All right, so you can look at those again. They're on our websites. So one question I always get is how well do these programs actually work? This is the 2015 break-even. I mean, remember if you will, I don't want to remember very, very much, but how much that price was actually dropping that period of time. So this is what I want to show you. If we weaned a calf at 475 pounds at 9.44 or 15, he actually was worth this much. yikes, that calf was worth $1,200 at that period of time. We thought that wasn't very much money. I wish we all wish we could have that $1,200 back. Okay, but that's beside the point. You can see if we wait 45 days, put another 100 pounds on that calf, he'll be worth $1,250. If we wait another 45 days, he isn't going to be worth nearly as much at all. Okay, but if we just retain that owner, that calf, we have some value in here. We have $140 worth of preconditioning costs over 90 days. Again, it wouldn't cost you quite that much. It shouldn't. But we actually lost $138 on that animal if he gained 2 pounds a day. Okay, if that calf was gaining 1 pound a day, it was $232. Okay, from 9/4 to 12/11. But if that calf was stagnant, he did not gain anything. We didn't precondition. He was on dry grass. Okay, we didn't have any input costs in that particular animal. We lost almost $250 a head. Okay, versus a really strong preconditioning program. This program actually saved us money. Okay, so that's how I look at that. Probably need to update these numbers. This is last year's break even. Same scenario. 2 pounds a day. We weaned a calf at 575, which is probably a more accurate statement of when and what weight we're going to wean that calf at. Okay, so that preconditioning program actually gained us almost $67 a head. That's a net profit. Okay, that's not gross, that's net. $67 a head if that calf gained 2 pounds a day. If he gained 1 pound a day, about $44, $45 a head is what that particular animal brought. And if he was stagnant, again, didn't do anything, just about $25 a head is what that animal brought. And again, if a stagnant calf didn't look healthy, it didn't look like he'd been going through the sale barn, he would be hit pretty hard in terms of price. Okay, just a couple more slides here. If you're interested and want more information with OQBN, Brent has the website down there in the chat box. Take a look at our website. Make contact with your county educator. I imagine most of you do know your county educators, but make contact. There's a little bit of paperwork. It's very easy. We do identify those calves with an OQBN tag, and it costs $1.50 for enrollment. That's the only fee in the whole program, and we recoup some of our tag costs. Again, we'll step foot on the ranch and take a look at those calves. And you have the option to participate in an OQBN sale. It is definitely not required, but one thing is, if we can get more of like cattle in one location, it really helps with the value of those animals. Real quickly, we are making a few changes in 2017 coming up this fall. We're actually going to use a program from Micro Technologies called Stalker One. If you're interested in monitoring and recording data on your calves from when you pull those off the cow through weaning to see how those calves perform, we can help you do that. We're also going to try to track cattle with the Stalker One program, track the health of those calves beyond the auction, which is kind of hard to do, but that's what we're going to do. Again, we're switching up to a Z type tag. It's called a Z tag, which is a non-button type tag. We're going to switch to that tag, which is a little bit of a change. And one thing that we've done in the past is we have been able to co-mingle, meaning put everybody's calves together at OKC West and make a really big lots of 100 to 200 head calves. We're not able to do that this year. I don't think that's a huge detrimental loss, but we're just going to market your calves within a OQBN designated time, and we'll promote your calves and the management practices that you've adhered to, or your producers have adhered to for that particular reason. So guys, that was right at 25 minutes, Brent, and that's all I have for you. If there's, Brent, you might talk about this survey link a little bit. I'm not terribly familiar with that, but I'll be open to any questions, or give me a phone call and we can visit about the program a little bit more. So, Brent?
Thanks, Gant. Yeah, this is just a survey link to a survey over this webinar so we can get some feedback from you guys, see how we're doing and everything. And as he said, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat box down in the lower right corner. And so our next webinar will be on August 8th, and it will be about crop insurance. So feel free to join us then. It'll be the same time. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Brent. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.